what you see on the screen is a hole that we woke up to. I'm now at this point, I think I was like 11 weeks pregnant, and a raccoon fell through the kitchen.
This is at the Softy Girl's story of the first house she ever bought. I wish I could say this is the worst thing that happened to her, but it's not. Not only did a raccoon fall through the roof into her kitchen, but they ended up losing everything, including all of their savings and their home. In fact, I think this is one of the worst home buyer stories I've ever heard. This is a true story and one that's filled with warnings. So let's go through what happened to her so this doesn't happen to you. So let's dive right in. If you're wondering if they did an inspection, they did. They did a full inspection and they came back with a long list of things that need to be fixed. And the Softy Girl was reassured by her realtor that nothing on it was a big deal.
This seems like a lot of things to get fixed, and I mean, like, obviously we knew we were buying an older home. We knew we were going to have to get like AC and things like that. But like the list was really long, and she was just basically like, no, like, this is great. Like, you know, you love it. Like, just look at the house. Like, it's a fixer upper. You can fix it.
This is your first red flag. It's great to do an inspection, but if the list is super long and it's an older house and it's a fixer upper, you need to do more due diligence. If you need more time, just ask the seller for an extension on your inspection contingency. Bring in some specialized contractors that can look at all the big ticket items, make sure it's not a big deal so you don't have to deal with it later. In fact, if it were my buyer, I probably would have suggested they bring in a structural engineer along with a general contractor at the inspection. They knew it was a fixer-upper, so it makes sense. It may cost a little bit more, but you'll be glad that you did. Because her story, it gets really bad. After the raccoon fell through the roof, they did finally decide to bring in some specialists to look at the house. Several of the contractors suggested that she get a foundation review. Take a look.
We ended up getting a foundation review, and they wanted $45,000 to fix the foundation of the home. And that was before they actually figured out there was a crawl space that also needed to be observed. So it actually was going to be $57,000.
$57,000. The house was basically just sinking into the hill it was sitting on. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it does. They get a letter from the city informing them that they need to fix a lot of stuff before a certain date. The title company and the seller never disclosed to them that the city has sent a correction notice to the seller with a list of items that they were required to repair.
And then we get a letter from the city that we have a correction notice. And then we have to get a list of things fixed before this date, before we start getting fined. We're like, what the fuck?
They contacted the city to try to get some help, but they were met with resistance and deflection. This all happened in Michigan, just FYI. She called the title company and her realtor to get some help and was basically ghosted. So you may be asking yourself, why didn't they know about this list prior to closing on the house? Should the title company have known about the letter from the city? Not necessarily. Correction notices from the city, aka code violations or repair orders, are usually not recorded on title unless a lien has been placed for non-compliance or the city records it as a public document tied to the property. So unless it becomes a recorded lien, the title company likely won't see it in their title search. So then who's responsible? Well, that would fall on the seller to disclose or the listing agent if they knew about it. She tried calling all the realtors, but they weren't getting back to her. So they had to pursue other ways. They started to interview different lawyers while simultaneously receiving letter after letter threatening to fine them if they didn't get that list of items fixed. They discovered that the previous owners, the sellers, had tried to get a certificate of occupancy to rent out the house and were denied due to the condition of the house. So clearly they knew what was going on. At this point, the house was deemed unlivable, she was pregnant, and it wasn't safe. So they moved out. The lawyer they hired basically told them that they did have a case against the sellers, but it would take a long time to litigate and it would be really expensive. Their story ended with them claiming bankruptcy, surrendering the home to the bank, and losing all of their savings. It was a devastating loss on every level, financially, emotionally, and physically. This wasn't just about bad luck, it was a systemic failure. Failure by the seller to disclose, failure by the realtor to provide guidance, and a complete breakdown in the checks and balances that are supposed to protect buyers. But the saddest part, this is not an isolated story. These situations are rare, but they happen more often than you think. I bring this story to you because it can happen to anyone. So how can you avoid this? Here are some tips. Number one, never underestimate a long inspection report. A long but minor report in a fixer-upper is a huge red flag. Get second opinions from contractors and look at patterns. Multiple small issues may signal larger systemic problems. Number two, bring in specialists, not just a general inspector. For older homes or fixers, hire a structural engineer, a roofing contractor, HVAC, plumbing pros, and pest inspectors to look at key areas. Think of this as your second line of defense. Number three, if the house is a fixer-upper and you suspect there are hidden issues, you can order a municipal lien and code violation search. This is separate from your title search and checks for unrecorded liens like open permits, failed inspections, and correction notices. If your title company doesn't offer this, you can hire a real estate attorney or municipal search company to do it. Number four, you can also request all past city correspondence from the seller if you think something is up. Put it in writing to protect yourself from hidden issues. If they refuse or seem hesitant, consider that a red flag. Transparency is critical. Number five, strengthen your inspection contingency. Don't be afraid to ask for more time if you need to bring in specialists. It is your right as a buyer to feel confident and informed before moving forward. Number six, work with responsive and ethical agents and title companies. Interview them ahead of time and make sure they support due diligence, not shortcuts. A good agent should act as your advocate, not just someone pushing a deal to close. Number seven, budget for post-close repairs and possible legal backup. Even $5,000 to $10,000, it can make a huge difference. This buffer gives you breathing room and time to respond if anything unexpected comes up. And finally, document everything. Save texts, emails, and calls in case you need them later. This paper trail is your insurance policy in the event you need to pursue legal action or file a complaint. Because what happened to at the Softy Girl should never happen to anyone. And with the right protection, it doesn't have to. Be informed, be proactive, and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Your future self will thank you. I wish I could say this only happens with fixer-uppers, but here's a story about a brand new house that Ash Soroki bought from Lennar that was, in her words, the biggest mistake of her life. Within 2 years of buying the new house, she started to get really sick with severe breathing and gastrointestinal issues. She noticed moisture problems in her home and very quickly thereafter discovered mold growing everywhere. That is so gross. Despite mold growing everywhere, the builder told her that the levels weren't elevated and she only needed a few cabinets and 1 square foot of sheetrock replaced. So she hired an independent mold inspection company. Sadly, she's having really bad health issues and is currently in the middle of a lawsuit with Lennar. I am not trying to scare you from buying a house, but I do want you to have as much knowledge as possible before you do. Whether it's an older house that needs work or a brand new house, make sure you do your due diligence. If you are concerned about moisture or mold, ask the inspector to bring a moisture meter or an infrared camera with them. This way they can tell if the humidity levels are too high. If there is suspicion of moisture in the basement, in the bathrooms, in the attic, in the crawl space, hire a mold inspection professional to test it for mold spores. It will cost you some money, but honestly, it's worth it for peace of mind. These stories From At the Softy Girl's devastating fixer-upper nightmare to Astor Loki's mold-filled new construction are painful reminders of what can go wrong. But they also prove something important. This isn't about fear, it's about preparation. Buying a home is emotional. It's exciting, it's overwhelming, and at times really stressful. And when things go right, it is one of the most rewarding decisions you will ever make. But when things go wrong, it can affect your finances, your health, even your entire future. That's why due diligence isn't just a checklist, it's your safety net. So to wrap it up, ask the uncomfortable questions. Bring in specialists. Insist on transparency. And don't rush just because everybody says it's fine. No house is perfect, but you deserve the full picture before you say yes to probably the biggest purchase of your life. And if you're working with an agent, title company, or a builder that doesn't support your kind of diligence, walk away. You deserve better. If this video helped you or opened your eyes to something you may not have thought about, let me know in the comments below. And if you've gone through something similar, I would love to hear your story because sharing it may help someone else avoid the same fate. So hit like if you found this valuable. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more homebuyer stories, tips, and everything you should be told before closing day. If you want to hear more stories about buyer remorse and how to avoid being house poor, check out this next video. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Bye.